on, everybody slow down. Slow down. Don't get excited, Stinger, Darby. Everybody just relax.
You're not speaking for me tonight, Taz, because I got something to say. I got something to say, all right? And it's not to you, Darby Allin. It's to you, Sting. You see, you show up like some hot shot, and you stick your nose in our business week after week after week. And after all the back and forth and the physicality and the damnedest street fight in this business, I gotta say, I respect you. And more importantly, I want to come out here and look you eye to eye and tell you Ricky Starks is wrong. With or without your bat, you are still the icon.
Welcome to Talk AEW, the official wrestling podcast of goombastop.com and tiltmagazine.net. As usual, I am Mariko McDonald, and I'm joined by the fabulous Ricky D.
What's up, Mariko? For our listeners, of which we actually have a lot of listeners considering, there's a lot of AEW podcasts. So first of all, thank you for listening. Second of all, I am really sorry about last week's episode. I felt the sound quality wasn't really good. We used a new system to record, so I think this week will be better. Anyhow, so sorry. But we're hyped. This is going to be a great episode.
Awesome. Also with us is Aaron Santos.
What's up?
All right, everybody. It is time. It's that time.
Mm-hmm.
It's the time for Ricky's rapid fire questions.
It's a time in which I ask all of the questions which you need to know the answers for, because these are the most important questions of the week if you watch AEW, which you should be watching if you're listening to the show. Otherwise, I don't know why you're listening to the show. Anyways, question number 1. Revolution. Yes, I'm going back 2 weeks, but Revolution, the pay-per-view ratings were off the chart. The PPV made about $6 million in cash. So if I'm doing my math correctly, that means that they had over 125,000 buy-ins worldwide. It's the highest grossing PPV since, I don't know, like 20 years or plus. That's not WWE.
Yeah. It's around that time.
That's amazing.
It's amazing, but here's my question. Why did Dynamite's viewership drop over 240,000? Because the week prior, they almost hit 1 million. Actually, they hit 1 million when Shaq was on TV, and then a few people tuned out. So they were at about 980,000 viewers for that episode. The following week, they only had 768,000 viewers on TNT. I'm talking about TNT, right?
Yeah.
So why was there a drop? I cannot figure this out. Was there a big event happening on the same night, like a basketball game or a football game or the Pope talking or Oprah doing an interview with royalty? Like,
Do we have the numbers from last? If I'm not mistaken, I think the numbers from last week was like around 700,000.
So I have the numbers. So actually, this week has in the St. Patrick's Day special.
Mm-hmm.
There was 760,000.
Yeah.
So actually, the week prior was 743,000, the lowest ever.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's not just Dynamite. It's NXT, it's Raw, it's SmackDown. Viewership has gone down, and I'm assuming it's because of the pandemic. But the reason why I find this strange is because usually after a pay-per-view event, even if people weren't satisfied with the ending, because we all know what happened at the end, people would still want to tune in out of curiosity to kind of find out what AEW is going to do in order to address the fact that the exploding barbed wire bomb didn't actually go off.
Yeah. I can't explain like how the viewership went down, but my main takeaway is that aside from like the Shaq spot, I mean, like you have Shaq coming on AEW. I mean, like for sure you're gonna get like a ratings boost, but aside from that, it's been doing about average. I mean, AEW has been averaging around like 700,000 plus viewers like for a while now. So it's not too surprising to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not really a huge.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just, it's like part of me like doesn't want to take it too critically, because like if you've had like an average of like 700,000 viewers and suddenly you drop to like 600, 500,000.
Oh, no. So it went from 980 to 743 and then back up this week to 768.
Well, because that 980 was definitely from the Shaq promotion.
For sure.
For sure.
But still, if there's 768,000 viewers that watched live on TNT this week, where were the 22,000 missing people last week? Were they on vacation?
Watching baseball? I have no idea.
Maybe.
It's like the only thing I could find that was happening at the same time that could have pulled viewers away. So I don't know.
Anyhow, so whatever. Revolution, the buy rate record was set. The previous record for AEW was Double or Nothing back in 2020, which had 105,000. So they basically had 20 to 25,000 more buy-ins for this pay-per-view.
Damn.
Pretty good stuff. All right, so old school model, less is more, is 4 pay-per-view events per year just the right number, the magic number, or should AEW do more?
I don't think they need to do more. Especially when they deliver main events like this week, which any other promotion would have saved a match like that for a pay-per-view, but we get it on free TV. So, I mean, penny pinching frugal kind of gal. I don't want to have to pay $40, $50, $60 for every month, every 2 months.
Yeah.
WWE's business model shifted so that, that's less of a big revenue stream for them, so they can do it more often and it doesn't really hurt anything. But at the same time, it's like, there's no reason for AEW to do everything that WWE does. So, I think keeping things short and concise and having something that storylines can build up to, instead of just like, coming up with excuses for huge matches every single month.
Yeah.
It's just not good for creativity.
Yeah, I totally agree, because it does help develop storylines in TV format. Let it build up, let it gain the hype, let it get the traction. So like that, come pay-per-view, you get the big payoff that people expect, or people are buying into to possibly watch. So I think so I think it's a very good, keep it minimal in the pay-per-view, because like Mariko said, we're getting like very, very good quality main events in the TV anyway. So I'm a happy fan either way.
Also, we just have to remember that WWE has its app. Well, I guess now it's with Peacock, but here in Canada we still have the channel. But whatever, they had a channel, and so you could just buy into the channel per month, pay your $9 and get all the pay-per-view events. I don't think many people can afford to pay $50, $60 per month for additional AEW PPVs.
Oh, for sure.
No.
Man, I feel like some of these questions we could spend a whole 20 minutes on. But the next question is Cody Rhodes, the new Triple H.
He's certainly selling it.
He's there.
He's selling it, that's for sure.
Did he have to beat Penta? I mean, they just set up this great storyline with these 2 fantastic competitors, and they could have really stretched out this feud for a few weeks, and
especially with his shoulder being injured and everything, that's something they could have leaned on a little bit more.
Anyways, how would you rate Penta's dance moves?
I'd say they're about a 7, whereas Kenny Omega got a solid 10 out of me this week.
Yes.
That was my next question. God damn
certainly
it.
Gift worthy.
Should Penta wear a top hat moving forward? It doesn't have to be a St. Patty's Day top hat, but a top hat.
It's a look. I like it.
I liked it too. I thought it was really creepy and menacing.
Yeah, it was a nice look. I certainly would use it as like
more of like a bowler type hat. Then he kind of fits in a little bit more with Butcher and Blade, but make him into a half Irish mobster, half Mexican. Sure, why not?
Is Alex Marvez the hardest working man in AEW?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think he's the hardest worker. I
So
mean,
then answer me this question, Aaron. How is Christian going to be the hardest working man in show business?
I was,
You
I
can't
was, I was,
work him.
I was just gonna get to that. I was gonna say like he might even outwork Christian. So
See, I was going to say no because I don't think he's actually a man. I think he's a spirit, which is how he's able to magically manifest himself in so many places so quickly.
Why did it take the Young Bucks so long to figure out that creepy Uncle Don and Kenny Omega and the Shit Brothers are not actually their friends?
Well, it took them a pretty long time to figure out that Hangman didn't want to hang out with them anymore, so I just don't think they're very observant.
I don't think anybody wants to hang out with the Young Bucks in AEW.
that's sad.
It's not sad. They should
sad.
be heels.
No, that's true. It's true because like I mean like when you look at the Young Bucks characters, like if you step back and look at them a couple of times, I mean they do come off as like complete, douchebags. So
Yeah, they have like the kind of face that you want to punch.
yeah, well, because they have that cocky attitude, right? Like who wants to be friends with like a person who thinks that they're better than you? So I don't know.
Is AEW going a little too far by making fun of WWE each and every single week? This week they were poking fun of the new WWE rule in which you can't do leg slapping, for example.
I thought the joke in BTE this week about it was better. You don't need a t-shirt. Come on, guys.
That's true. I don't know. I feel like it's just. I mean, they've been doing this since like day one, so I
It's
don't know.
just such a Nitro Eric Bischoff WCW move, and I'm not sure if it's needed.
No, I don't think it's needed because I don't feel like you need to add fuel to the fire to like people who like, especially like on the internet. You have that whole like AEW.
Yeah, we don't need a
and
wrestling
yeah,
feud
I
between
don't
fans.
I don't need it, but like I don't know. I can't like critique it too much. It has its moments. It's cool.
How long before the Impact AEW working relationship explodes?
When
You know why I'm
Kenny,
asking a question, Aaron? Because you
when
watch Impact, so maybe you can
yeah,
answer the question. So basically, they're going to do like a pay-per-view event in which Kenny Omega is going to challenge their champion.
yeah. So
And
I think
apparently there's like inside information that neither Tony Khan nor what's his face from Impact are happy about what they want to do with the outcome.
for
Meaning it
sure.
seems like each guy wants their guy to win, but come on.
Mhm.
Like
I
can
was
someone from Impact
yeah
actually beat Omega?
yeah. I was just gonna say I'm like I think it's gonna explode when Kenny Omega takes the Impact Championship. I mean, like, I don't, I don't know, man. I can't see Impact putting Rich Swann over, and I can't imagine that Tony Khan's gonna be too happy having like their Impact roster putting over like Kenny Omega. So
Yeah, and there was already the issues with Sammy and his booking and ultimately choosing not
yeah,
to appear because from what I heard, it didn't suit his character. It didn't suit where he was on his career trajectory, where they just wanted him to do a bunch of tag stuff and lose. And yeah, it seems I mean,
because
yeah,
like
we'll see what happens.
I give it 60 days max.
6 days.
60.
Oh, 60. Okay. Yeah.
By the way, my Unrivaled series came in, so I now
Ooh.
have every single action figure, and I actually got 2 of Sammy. So I got one packaged and one I opened up the package. So I'm really
Nice.
happy this time that they did not screw up my order. All right, moving on because we got a lot of questions here. Is it just me or is Jade amazing?
She's
You're not.
growing on me.
Yeah.
She's got real presence.
You're
Someone was comparing her to someone. Oh,
China with actual wrestling ability?
I don't know about China. China kind of lacked the charisma. I mean, Jade Cargill has the charisma.
yeah,
Sure.
she's kind of got like a Goldbergy thing going on where she just kind of comes in, dominates,
Destroys.
leaves. Keep the mystique. Don't put her on mic anymore. Just have her be that dominant, intimidating, physical presence, and keep doing promo school, and we'll see where we get with her.
I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing her like more like showing off more of her like sass or like attitude because she kind of reminds me of like Sasha Banks. she's got like this certain like moxie, like chip on her shoulder. I like it.
I think she's amazing. Like, we've been through this a million times. Even when things go wrong and it's a train wreck, like her interview on the waiting room, it was just the most entertaining thing on television. And I think she has, like, for someone who's in the women's division, she reminds me of China in the sense that she's so dominant when surrounded by everyone else in the roster. I mean, she's bigger than a lot of the men in the roster, but then she has the charisma, like you said. And so she is sort of like a Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, Goldberg type of wrestler where they appear in a big, huge wrestling promotion on TV, and right away, boom, first match ever, they win over the crowd with their charisma. MJF, the Pinnacle, did he choose the wrong name? Because I think this is the worst name ever for a faction ever. The Pinnacle? Like, the Pinnacle. They're calling themselves the Pinnacle.
Simon Miller said he thought they said pickle.
Yeah, that was the best. When I heard that one, that was the best. So every time I'm gonna hear him say the Pinnacle, I'm just gonna think about pickle now.
I'm just gonna call him Pinochle because there's a bunch of old dudes. Okay, Tully's the only really old one, but
Look, I thought this was the best promo of 2021 so far, up until he said the word Pinnacle. I was like, what? You just ruined your whole promo, dude. Why?
well, it was back-to-back fire promos too, because Tully was on fire, and then MJF just took it to another level. But yeah, I'm not crazy about it.
They just opened the door to so many jokes. I mean, Chris Jericho's just going to walk out in a few weeks and he's going to make fun of the name Pinnacle. He should be on Twitter right now making fun of MJF. Worst name ever for a faction. Way to go, MJF. Speaking of promos, did Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston have the funniest promo in about a year?
Oh my god, I love them
They're the
together
best.
so much.
Yes.
Never ever split them up. Just give them their give them a sitcom. I just want to see those two hang out, you know?
A sitcom, a buddy cop movie,
Yes!
a thriller, a horror
yes.
film. Who is Googly Eyes? Who's he talking about? Was he talking about the guy from Toy Story?
No, he's talking about Dog Gallows.
No, but he was comparing him to Forky and
okay.
yeah.
From Toy Story?
Yeah, from Toy Story.
Right, okay.
I don't remember Forky having googly eyes, though.
He has googly eyes because it's those.
Yeah, he was made of like craft. He was like a child's craft thing.
Yeah.
Pipe cleaners and googly eyes.
So wait, he's comparing Uncle Creepy to the Forky?
Yeah, he's comparing them to Forky.
I thought he was comparing Dog Gallows to Forky.
Yeah, Uncle
Was it Dog
Creepy.
Gallows? I'm not sure anymore.
Oh my god, okay. That's amazing.
Yeah, he said the big guy with the googly eyes.
Oh, okay. Well, he is a goof, right? And Forky is kind of a goof, so like you can see the connection.
We got 3 more questions. Did Brian Cage turn heel? And if so, what does this mean for Team Taz?
You mean
turn
face? And yes, I hope so. Please, and have him fight Will Hobbs because I have a fetish for hoss fights. I sure hope so. I really like him, and he needs to do more.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Also, because like I like that. I like that swerve. It was another swerve in the night, right? Because like, I mean, I was just so scared with like Tony Schiavone coming out saying that they're gonna interview Sting, and then the Lance Archer thing. Like, I'm glad that they're taking, they're advancing story, and then FTW comes out, or Team Taz comes out, and I'm like, oh my god, please not this again. Please don't turn this into like the freaking Miro and Orange Cassidy thing.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that's the last thing I needed. So it was a good swerve to see, like, Brian Cage show face, give him respect and everything. Telling Taz to, like, keep out of their business. So I thought it was good spot.
All right, so the next one's not really a question, but I do want to say that I'm glad to see that Darby Allin is finally going to defend his championship every single week, because we've been complaining about the fact that he never defends the championship, even though we love the man. So I always say this: don't be surprised if these guys listen to our podcast or anyone else's podcast that talks about this, because they do listen to AEW Podcast to get feedback. They admit it all the time on Twitter. So, I would like to think maybe he listened to us, and maybe he's going to defend his championship next. Last question. Did we all watch Elevation, and what did we think?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a good show. I mean, the action was good. They what I liked about Elevation was certainly making the video package, obviously, to push certain wrestlers and giving them the time that you normally would not see on Dynamite. So I thought it's okay. It's not a bad first start.
Yeah, I'm
Paul.
still curious, other than like the packages and the occasional promo, how it's really going to distinguish itself from regular Dark.
Yeah, well, if I feel like the formula that they're going, from their first episode, it just seems like they're just like pushing certain like wrestlers, give them more time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, I think, was really more in the announcing than the actual content of the matches in a lot of ways, because it really was just Paul White and Tony, and again, it's similar stuff to what Excalibur does on Dark, but just a lot more serious and kind of focused than the commentary on Dark with Taz and
Excalibur.
So, and I know Excalibur has his detractors, so I don't know. Maybe this will influence more people and get them more excited.
I feel like it's a cross between Dark and Dynamite. I think it has way better production values than Dark, and they actually package it like a show that's being televised live. But it's not as exciting as Dynamite, and this is what I realized this week, because we talked about this last week. We talked about the announcers. And after watching Elevation and watching Dynamite last week, I realized just how important and valuable Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, and JR are, because they bring so much excitement to the show. So much. And I know the Big Show is new. It's his first time really being an announcer for an entire television broadcast. But I just felt that there was no energy there was just no energy coming from him and Tony. Like, they were both soft-spoken.
I kind of got the feeling that Paul White was trying to do his very best serious sportscaster performance. And so there wasn't a lot of personality in it. The other thing that I noticed was that they weren't really calling the matches. They were just kind of running commentary over them instead of calling out moves and that sort of thing.
It was like they gave Paul White some notes about each wrestler, which he would read out, and they would sort of like talk about their past. And they didn't really call the match. There was no excitement, and I think that's a huge, huge knock against the show. Like, I think that's a huge flaw. Like, you need to make the show exciting, especially because it's on YouTube. And so I think if they can fix the announcers, if they can bring in more excitement, then I can see it working, because they are still trying to add video packages and storylines and interviews backstage. And we had the whole thing with Matt Sydal and Kenny Omega, for example.
Yeah.
We got a storyline come out of that match, and I think there's potential, but I'm not sold. I'm not going to sit in front of my computer for 2 more hours every week to watch this show until they figure out the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell they're still trying to find their footing, especially Paul White being new to commentating and everything. Like, yeah, it's going to develop over the next few weeks, and maybe it'll turn into something that you find worth watching. Like you said, there's lots of potential, so I'm excited to see how it develops.
Well, I just wanted to add a couple, because there's a couple of because we talked about, because Ricky mentioned the energy last week when we were chatting, and I just found out that they filmed Elevation right after Dynamite, so there's a possibility that the crowd, after 2 hours of a show, maybe they're not quite into it. Maybe the surrounding wrestlers around were probably tired. So it could be a factor, I mean, it's
But I
certainly.
mean, that's usually how they do Dark too. So I don't know.
But the thing is, when they started Dark way back before the pandemic hit, what made it cool was that it was basically just like one or two matches that they would just film, like dark matches, and you
Yeah.
would just go on YouTube and watch it. And now it's like an
Yeah.
actual entire show. And
Yeah.
I feel like we don't really have time in our lives to watch an entire show dark. Whereas if Elevation is an actual like show, like sort of like a broadcast, like Dynamite, then that's cool. But then why do we still have 2 hours of Dark and then 2 hours of Dynamite and 2 hours of Elevation back to back to back to back, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? That's 6 hours of my life watching.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot. It's
Yeah,
a lot.
it's a really good point. I mean, like for me, like I feel like I'm afraid that it more like Elevation will end up like eating out like Dark, because I feel like watching Elevation has more weight than watching Dark at the moment.
I think they should focus on developing Elevation and try to bring Dark back to just being Dark matches. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dark should be one or two matches. That's it. Elevation should be a YouTube show, and then later in the year they can give us the 1 hour televised show.
Yeah.
All right, that's about it. That is Ricky's rapid fire questions, which only took about 27 minutes this week. Wow.
Doing good, doing good. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about managers. Who needs one? Who doesn't? Who has one? Who doesn't need them?
We are the pinnacle. We are family. We will be the backbone of AEW for years to come. We will take every premier championship this great sport has to offer. And as the pinnacle, we will take what we want when we want. And right about now, Chris, you know what we want? I think we want your locker room. Oh, and Chris, before I take that and every single thing you hold near and dear to your heart in this world, week after week with me and my boys, allow me to say something to give you a little heartwarming message here. I hope I can get it right, guys. It's been 6 months. I mean, see if I can get it over with. I'm better than you, and you know it.
And we are back. So before we get into talking about the women's division and that absolutely scorcher of a match between Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, I wanted to just briefly touch on the concept of managers, because we had two. We were talking about the Darby Allin, Lance Archer, Team Taz segment, and Lance Archer came out and cut his own promo, and then Jake Roberts said some stuff about hot dogs. And then Team Taz came out, and Brian Cage told Taz not to speak for him and did his whole thing. So, I'm kind of wondering, does Lance Archer really need Jake Roberts? And if not, who does?
If we're talking about Jake Roberts, the thing about Jake Roberts is because he's Jake Roberts, he could pretty much come out with Lance Archer, but every time he tries to take a mic, like 90% of the time, Jake makes no sense these days. Like, I just don't even understand the point he's trying to make. But I don't know. Like, I kind of feel with Lance, it works. Because I don't know. Here's the thing about Lance Archer: he's gone from heel to heel like really quickly, and I feel like he makes a better heel. But when he's on the microphone, I feel like he makes a better face. Like, I feel like that's the problem when he's on the microphone. Like, the way he talks, because he's clearly very smart, he doesn't come across as a dominant, murderous force that he's trying to physically embody and be. And so I think having Jake the Snake there, if he's a heel, works in his benefit. But the thing with Jake the Snake is you're never going to expect Jake the Snake to interfere or help him win a match, because the guy can barely throw a clothesline.
It hasn't been stopping him.
No. So Darby Allin is a guy that can use a manager because his whole mystique is he's this quiet, mysterious punk rock wrestler who likes to pretend he's Evel Knievel and do these crazy stunts. Like, it makes sense for him to have a manager, but I feel like there are some people in the AEW roster who have managers, and they can actually do a better job on the microphone than their managers. So I kind of question why they have managers. Like, why is Vicky a manager of Nyla Rose?
That's a good question. I mean, is it more like Vicky needing Nyla Rose to gain some relevance in AEW? I don't know.
I think it's more like she needs Nyla Rose to have a job. Like, no offense, like she's with the wrong lady. She would be better matched with Britt Baker.
Yeah,
True,
probably.
but you can't break up Britt and Rebel. Like,
No,
that pair is just too fantastic.
Well, I mean, I know Wardlow is a bodyguard, but do we put bodyguards in the same category as managers?
I don't know. In my mind, a manager is someone who speaks for you.
Yeah.
Wardlow doesn't speak.
Yeah, he doesn't speak.
If anything, MJF is Wardlow's manager.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Because MJF reminds me of a cross between Ric Flair, Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, and Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. And Ted DiBiase did have his bodyguard. And so I kind of feel like Wardlow is, sort of like the bodyguard.
The new Virgil?
The new Virgil, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you call it when you have someone like Miss Elizabeth or Scary Sherry? They're not a manager. They are... What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Consort?
Maybe there's another word, but you know what I mean? It's someone who escorts you to the ring. They are your moral support.
I think back in the day they just called them escorts, but that took on a different connotation.
How many managers do we have? Like Tully, for example, is fantastic, right? Like the guy, when he gets on a microphone, like he steals the show. He can actually drop a promo for his age, and he can actually still wrestle. The guy's like, the guy should actually just be wrestling at this point in time because Sting's wrestling. The guy's amazing. But he's also in a faction with MJF, who's just going to steal the mic from him and outshine him no matter what. So MJF doesn't really need a talent like Tully. The match is good, and I love the new idea of like the 5 Horsemen. I'm sorry, I'm not going to call them the Pinnacle because it's a stupid name. But MJF doesn't really need a guy like Tully. He's got such great talent that someone else
But
can.
Sean Spears does.
100%. I mean, like if anything that benefits like having like managers and stuff is certainly like Sean Spears. Because
maybe
like
the Seidel brothers need a manager.
Oh my God, they need a miracle. I think Matt Seidel has got so much talent. I think he's a pretty good-looking dude. I like the way he dresses, I like his whole in-ring persona. I love the fact that he's got these crazy aerial maneuvers and he takes these high-risk moves from the top rope and, so on and so forth. When that guy gets on the microphone, man, he cannot, and he's so smart. Like I don't know if you watched the interview with him on the AEW official podcast. That dude is smart. He's so smart, but he cannot act for the life of him. And he just can't act or sell himself or sell the crowd. He can't deliver a promo for the life of him. Like I just don't know what they can do with this dude.
Well, they certainly need to. I mean, like I'm for the Seidel brothers. I mean, I think I mentioned in a couple of podcasts. I'm glad that they're doing work together because like what they're doing in ring is quite good. But just like you said, with their his promo skills and whatnot, like he's certainly gonna need some help. So
I don't want to pair them up with Jake Roberts just because it's so weird.
They could pair. Okay, let's. Who can the Seidel brothers pair with? That would be good for them.
The other option would be Diamond Dallas Page because they've all got the yoga thing going on. So that could be part of it.
That could be part of it.
That would actually be really good because like he's like a real hippie, Matt Seidel.
Yeah, and his brother even more so.
Yeah, DDP's a good pick. I can go with that for sure. Everyone in Team Taz seems like a good match for Taz. I'm not entirely sold on, or I don't think they need Will Hobbs and Brian Cage in the same faction because to me they're both big men. Yeah. But whatever, they work, and I do like the pairing with Taz. Ricky Starks with Taz is great, especially when they do commentary on Dark.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what's really weird? Even though I like Big Money Matt and I love this whole persona, the Butcher and the Blade with Big Money Matt and also Private Party, what a strange mix.
But it kind of almost works.
Yeah, you kind of see it in the ring, you got Butcher and the Blade, like all this like serious business, and Private Party is, they're fun loving guys. It makes for an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, because it kind of makes Butcher and Blade a little bit more fun, and
Yeah.
at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
Private Party makes them seem more aggressive and threatening.
I don't know, it's hard for me to say like who needs a manager in this roster, because I feel like half of them have a manager. I mean, like the Nightmare family
Sheeta?
technically has Arn Anderson.
What about in the women's division? Because I feel like as much as I love Sheeta, and as much
Mhm.
as she is working on her English and is very proud of it, and seeing Alex Abrahantes with Penta and him really kind of getting into his character with Penta, like, shouldn't we have something like that for Sheeta?
Who? Like, I don't. Like, I mean, we got Vicky Guerrero. Like, if you want to pair her with a lady,
I don't know.
I mean, but why does it have to be a lady?
What if we get Sheeta with Nakazawa?
Well, I don't think Nakazawa's English is strong enough either.
No, no. Who can you pair with? I can't. Because like I don't. Sheeta has. I don't feel like she really needs to cut any promos because she does a pretty good. She has a presence. I feel like she has a presence that that speaks for itself.
But I wonder why she isn't more in more storylines.
That is the question. That certainly is the question.
Like, she's the champion.
Yeah.
And, the big feud of this year has been between Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, which we will get to in a minute.
Yeah. No, that is a big question.
I guess the question is, what is the benefit in having a manager? And so usually it's to pair up someone who can actually cut a good promo and talk on the microphone with someone who lacks the talent. That is what they've always done in professional wrestling, going back to when wrestling started way back, whenever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of feel like in AEW, a lot of the guys who can cut promos, like Cody Rhodes, like MJF, so on and so forth, they have managers. And the people who can't cut promos or new to wrestling, or at least being on television and or whatever, they do not have a manager or an escort, for lack of better words. Like Jungle Boy is a great example. Jungle Boy is stuck in a tag team that's never going to go. They're never going to really go far. Like, I'm sorry, him and Luchasaurus are never going to win tag team championships. I know they're popular, but they are clearly pushing Jungle Boy to be a single superstar. Jungle Boy needs someone like Arn Anderson or Tully.
Yeah, I mean, if you revamp his character, for sure. I mean, it would make sense for like a Jungle Boy to have like a business savvy. I'm just picturing a manager as a business savvy like manager, but the visual would be kind of drawing.
The other thing too is that managers can also help to kind of legitimize someone, especially with like amazing veterans like Tully and Arn.
Mm-hmm.
Having them paired up with a relative newcomer like Jungle Boy, would add a lot of gravitas to, his position in the company and whatnot.
I mean, I kind of feel like Peter Avalon would make a better manager than wrestler.
Oh. Well, I mean, his sense of character is so unbelievable. I mean, he's a fine wrestler, but I definitely would love to see him do more.
He's the leaping leaping Lano Popo? Is it Lano or Lanny?
Lanny.
Peter Avalon is the leaping Lano Popo of AEW. Macho Man's older brother, I think, or was he younger? Anyways, but he never could achieve the superstar status of Macho Man Randy Savage. So he was still in WWE, he still wrestled, he still had storylines, he still had a character, a persona, and some people kind of liked him, but Peter Avalon reminds me of that guy. Like, he's never really going to go far.
Yeah, I mean, but I think he knows he's enhancement talent.
Yeah.
And I mean, dude gets on TV almost every week, so like, what's to complain about?
I just think he'd make a better manager.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, he's still young as far as wrestling, so he's got a few more years of just doing that. But I mean, him and Cesar Bononi, I think is a good team, and having Peter talk for them is good.
Yeah, surprisingly that team was working out. I don't mind seeing like Cesar Bononi pulling out Peter Avalon. So it's quite an interesting pair.
I will say that Peter Avalon looks way better with short hair.
I'll bet, yeah.
31 years old.
Mm.
He's a strange dude.
The strange really kind? I don't know. It's just
anyhow. I don't really know what else to add to this conversation because I feel like there's not really enough managers to go around in AEW. And most of them are retired wrestlers from the golden age of wrestling, from WWE days and WCW days, like Tully, Jake the Snake, Arn Anderson. I mean, my last question, and before we move on to the next segment, is Sting going to be a manager for Darby Allin? Like, we still haven't really figured out what his position is in AEW because every time he goes on the microphone now, he gets interrupted. And like in this case, this week, he didn't even get a word in.
I feel like Darby Allin doesn't need Sting as a manager, to be honest. I don't know, because like after last night, he certainly can cut a promo by himself. He already has the mystique and allure of his character. I don't think you need Sting to like elevate it. And,
that's as exciting as it is to have Sting in AEW, I feel like pairing him with Darby is kind of a lateral move. Like, oh, they both paint their faces, but like,
yeah, exactly.
What are they getting out of it? For like, what does Sting give Darby and Darby give Sting that they don't already have?
Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't do anything for anybody, It's sad to say, but
I don't agree. I think first of all, we got a cinematic match, a street brawl, which a lot of people seem to like. I think that Darby Allin, for a lot of people like myself, is a superstar, and people just love his character.
Oh yeah.
But there's a lot of people who are not yet sold on him because he is smaller. Let's face it, he's not the biggest guy in the roster. And I think bringing Sting into AEW and pairing him with Darby Allin did give Darby an even bigger push. Now, he was already big, but I think he's way bigger now. And I don't know what's next for Sting and Darby Allin. What they need to do is they need to do what Darby Allin said that he's going to do, and he needs to defend the championship belt and actually act like a champion without Sting's help. So if they do that, and maybe he and Sting are still tight and appear in some promos every so often, that would be kind of cool. So they can be aligned, but they need to work independently at the same time.
Yeah, completely agreed.
Yeah.
The one guy who for sure should have a manager is Ethan Page. Pair him up with someone like Tully or Arn Anderson or whoever. He's the kind of guy that I can see with a manager.
I kind of like him without one. And I mean, we haven't seen really very much of him at all on AEW, but he does have a really good sense of his character.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he does a pretty good job at carrying himself. And go back with an old joke, but like, God forbid, there is two people inside that brain of his.
I think it's just because he's a heel. He's not aligned with anyone. He has no allies. He's not in a faction.
Well. Plus, his nickname is All Ego, right? So like, clearly he's out. He's in for himself. So
give him a lady. Give him Penelope Ford. Give him.
I don't know.
Give him Sheeta. Does he speak Japanese?
She's a face.
Well, unless he turns into Karate Man and works with Sheeta, I don't know.
Oh, no, Maki Ito.
Oh yeah. I could see that too.
Yeah, Karate Man and Maki Ito
Oh my gosh.
together forever in my heart. And on that note, we're going to take another break before we start gushing about the Thunder Rosa Britt Baker.
How you Eddie asked me how I feel. Good. We're like this. We're like this.
We're already
Ask me how
there.
I
Tag
feel.
team. How do you feel?
Not good, Eddie. Not in a good mood. Okay? Not just because I got burned and lacerated, all that notwithstanding. Then I got handcuffed and beaten to a bloody pulp. You know, I'm not feeling too good. I should be on a beach in a hot tub right now sipping a Mai Tai, but instead I'm going to war again because it's time to take care of my real problem. You know, sometimes you got to step back, take a look, and fix the real problem.
We know what that problem is, don't we?
Those Good Brothers.
Yeah, brother.
Everybody loves the Good Brothers. Hey, Hoot. Oh, they're such a good time. Everybody loves the Good Brothers, baby. No. I don't. At all. I don't like them at all. And not just because I wasted my money on Talkin' Shop-A-Mania. I don't like them because they are cheap shot artists. I turn around this corner, there's Anderson and Gallows. I turn around this corner, there's Anderson and Gallows. Nobody wants to look at Gallows that much.
No.
I can't get his face out of my mind. Those googly eyes.
You look like that Forky dude from one of the
Forky, yeah, it's like a kid in arts and crafts day where they get like construction paper and they glue like the eyes that wiggle, you know what I'm talking about?
the wiggly
That's what
eyes.
Gallows looks like.
He's a wiggly-eyed dude.
All right, so to start the segment, I think I'm just going to ask a question. Is this, or is this not, how you elevate a women's division?
You talking about this specific match or the
I'm
lead up?
talking
The
about the lights out, unsanctioned Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa, slobber knocker, blood-soaked battle.
Yes, but there has been a buildup, and AEW's done a fantastic job all year long because in 2020, every single AEW fan and podcaster and critic and reviewer was complaining about the women's division, including us. This year, since the start of the year, I think mid-January, we've raved about every single women's match, or not every single one, almost all of the women's matches on Dynamite all year long. We had Serena Deeb versus Riho. We had Nyla Rose versus Britt Baker. We had Thunder Rosa versus whoever, because every match with Thunder Rosa is amazing. And now we have the main event between Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, and you have Jade in the same show, who's also watching, and they actually purposely show a shot of her watching the match. Then they show a shot of Sheeta watching a match. Then they show a shot of all the other ladies watching a match. So all eyes are on Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, who are basically the face of the women's division. So this, to me, was not only the best match of 2021, and by the way, we've had some amazing matches this year. Just go back and think of Archer and Phoenix, and Shaq versus Cody, and like I said, Deeb versus Riho, and Jungle Boy versus Dax, and so on and so forth. But this was the best match of the year. And it's not just because it was a hardcore wrestling match in which both women were covered in blood and, landed on steel chairs and steel steps and broke through tables, but it's because of the build-up, the story leading to the end of the match. There are stakes to it and what it meant for Thunder Rosa to walk away with the win. I don't know if you saw the video footage of the aftermath of the match.
Yeah.
If not, go watch it on Twitter or YouTube.
It's like 2-3 minutes. Just like backstage, Tony giving them a pat on the back and the roster cheering everybody.
Mhm.
It was absolutely unbelievable barn burner of a match. The stakes were great. The moves were huge. The brutality was there. It blew me away.
To add to the conversation, I mean, it's just like this was the only way for the rivalry to end is just this bloody like hardcore main event. But like I'm super glad that that they're putting like women's matches as a main event. I mean, I think AEW.
Yeah, about bloody time.
Yeah, and I feel like AEW has done a very good job as of late, like showcasing their women's division, because I think that was like one of our biggest criticisms was the women's division not getting enough representation. So I think it was a very a huge step forward for what they just did.
But by the way, I want to repeat what you just said. Our, as in this podcast, biggest criticism is the representation of the women's division, meaning the fact that AEW in the past did not give these ladies enough of a chance, enough of
Yeah, it's never been about the talent.
Mm-hmm.
The talent is phenomenal. It's always been about how it's been presented. And I feel like this whole year, like you said, since like mid-January, is just them building and building and like making up for the last year and a half or so of just really dropping the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, this last match was like sort of like hitting that high note of like, okay, we got it. We figured it out.
It was just like that mic drop moment. It's just like, there you go.
It was the Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Hitman at, again, was it Royal Rumble, Survivor Series? I always forget.
I think it was Survivor Series.
It was Survivor Series, and Austin passes out covered in blood.
Mm-hmm.
He never taps. He never technically loses the match. It kind of had that same feel to it. It's a game changer. It's a game changer for Britt, even though she was already a superstar. It's a game changer for Thunder Rosa, even though she had already proved that she's the best wrestler in that roster when it comes to the women.
Mm-hmm.
It was a game changer for the entire division, and quite frankly, it was a game changer for professional wrestling and for AEW.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, people are going to be talking about this match for years.
We open up the show talking about the ratings, and I want to see what the ratings are like next week, because everyone's talking about this match. Everyone's like, did you watch the match? You got to watch this match. This is why we watch AEW. There's a lot of people who are very critical of AEW. There's a few podcasters, which we won't name. And I listen to these people, and I'm like, you know what the difference is between you now and say 20, 30, 40 years ago? You weren't actually reviewing wrestling on a week-to-week basis, because now you actually are, as a reviewer, review the show and you would nitpick. But wrestling had the same problems as it does now, like 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. Not every match is going to be great. Not every move is going to be executed to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Not every storyline is going to be a winning storyline. But AEW has, I would say, a very good batting average when it comes to knocking it out of the park. And this is a prime example of them knocking it out of the park. We've had unbelievable main events all year long on AEW Dynamite. Like, we're talking about pay-per-view matches.
Yeah.
No offense, but this match was so much better than the Jon Moxley Kenny Omega match at Revolution. Like, I would have paid $50 for this match.
Well, that's a very high praise. Well, you're not wrong. Yeah, it's like,
it was better than the Eddie Kingston Jon Moxley hardcore match.
Yeah, without question. What's funny, while we were watching it, my husband was on Reddit and read this comment, and I just think it's really interesting to think about. Remember when a feud between two women's wrestlers culminated in a Jello wrestling match?
A Jello wrestling match?
Okay, maybe not Jello, but like, the evening gown match.
Yeah, the only thing I can think about was what, Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler?
They did the mud matches.
Yeah, there was the mud matches, but it was kind of, well, it was in.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's refreshing to have a women's match that is just as hardcore and hard hitting as a men's match, and isn't just about getting some TNA.
For sure,
that TNA.
For sure. I mean, like that's why I said too, like it was such a great step forward, because it's not like sexualizing like the women's division or a women's wrestler, or any way, shape, or form. It was really like, it was them giving their heart and soul, their performance, their passion for wrestling, putting it in the ring.
It was harder hitting than like half the men's matches.
I never really thought about this. The women's division doesn't really have any of the women act in like over sexual.
No, they don't.
No,
because
I mean, that went out of fashion like 20 years ago. But...
Yeah. But you watch WWE and the ladies come out and they're strutting stuff and they're bending over for the camera so the camera can get their ass type thing. Like,
there's a couple there's a couple of women wrestlers that does that spot, but it's not as bad as it was like in the early 2000s.
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, for me, it's no different than Sammy coming out and he's shaking his ass and
Yeah, I feel like there is like equal opportunity sexualization happening, which I
Yeah.
guess that's progress.
Peter Avalon. Anybody? Peter Avalon? I mean,
Yeah.
every second he's in front of the camera, he flaunts his stuff.
I know, but that's ironic. It's different. But
I'll
yes,
still
I get your
take I'll
point.
still take Vel Venus over him any day.
But okay, so this match, I mean, let's just go over a few things that happened. So we got a suplex on the ladder.
Oh man, yeah.
Unbelievable.
No, it was a death valley driver on the ladder. That was a scary spot too.
We had the flatliner to Rosa, the
Mhm.
stomp on the chair. We had Rebel go through the table. And then, of course, the finish when they both go through the table. Of course, they're both covered in blood.
That was
When I
insane.
saw that baggie come out, I was just like, "Oh,
Well, it
okay,
was
we are not playing tonight."
it was funny too because I was watching with my wife. I did not think thumbtacks because I was so into the match. I was like ready to believe that anything was about to come out, and my wife says like, "Well, what's she having there? Like a snake?" I'm like, "That would be funny."
That's funny because my husband and I had a very similar exchange.
I know.
Where I was like, "Ooh, bag," because I don't know. I knew in AEW if a baggie comes out, that means thumbtacks,
Mhm.
and he was like, "Is it a snake?" I was like, "No, it's thumbtacks."
But I mean, like she had her in a submission move, and then in order to reverse
She
the
went
submission move,
through the tag.
Yeah,
they had to roll over and attack
insane.
again.
That
Oh.
made me think that they were gimmicked until I watched the
No.
after the show footage where the
Yeah.
doctor's like picking them out of Britt's back. I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
This match was incredible, but it leaves a few questions. What does this mean for Thunder Rosa? She's not on the roster. I guess
No.
she's still part of NWA.
NWA. Yeah. Well, she has actually this month she has a match against Camille. Was that her name? Against Camille in NWA for the number one contender and number one contenders match in NWA. So she's still doing work for them.
So I'm guessing we're gonna soon be living in a world in which wrestlers are gonna have so much power that they're gonna be able to choose to wrestle for more than one promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And so someone like Thunder Rosa would be able to wrestle for AEW and NWA and have two contracts.
Well, we'll see because clearly, like Thunder Rosa wants to be in AEW. I mean, I think she's mentioned it on Twitter like a couple of times, and
She
AEW
needs to be on TV.
Yeah, and AEW clearly would love to have Thunder Rosa on their roster full time. I mean, to put her over Britt Baker, I mean, that says a lot.
Yeah, they just need to work things out with Mr. Corrigan, but I think it would be a no-brainer to snap her up if she's available.
How long is her contract with NWA?
I
think
don't
it's 2022 or end of 2021, something like that.
So basically, she's allowed to wrestle on television for AEW, even though she's on contract with NWA. Like, are they paying NWA, or does she have the freedom to do this?
I have no idea how that's working, but I know that the AEW contracts themselves are very flexible. Like a lot of the roster was or is still wrestling with other promotions. Like Joey Janela is still doing GCW shows. Brian Pillman's still wrestling MLW. Up until probably sometime last year, MJF was still wrestling MLW. So that flexibility's always been a part of the AEW contract philosophy. But as far as being full-time with another promotion, once, quarantine times end, and NWA is able to do live shows and get their YouTube content up and running again, we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, but I also wonder if this is the end of the feud between Dr. Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, because it doesn't seem like
It has to. I mean,
Yeah,
how
this
can
was
you?
an exclamation point.
Yeah,
Like,
like
you
how like
can't-
how can you continue on with this feud after this? Like, I mean, you have to go bigger than this hardcore match.
I mean, they kind of did it back in the days with The Rock in Austin and The Rock in Mankind. It just never ended because it was money. It was
True.
easy money.
It was easy money because those were like huge superstars. Everyone would love to see them, face each other over and over again. But
yeah, but it's also there was just more money in the industry to start with back then, so we'll see.
Just really quickly to bring this full circle, we talked about the ratings at the start of the podcast. So when we are reading out those numbers, or when I was reading out the numbers earlier, that's only TNT views. The wrestling has changed, or the world has changed since the days of Monday Night Raw and WCW Nitro.
Yeah, cable television.
Right. Back then, I remember my friends and I would leave the basketball court. We would run to my house so we can watch Raw.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you can watch everything on online.
Yeah.
And the thing about WWE, especially, and I guess AEW does this too, to a fault, is they put everything on Twitter like right away. They put all the highlights on Twitter. I think that's a huge mistake.
Well, because
I think they should stop. Like, I think as someone who does this for a living, this is my actual job. I think their social media team is amazing. Their online marketing team does an amazing job, but they do too good of a job because a lot of times you could just go to Twitter and watch the highlights and not have to tune in and watch Dynamite.
I don't know. On the other hand, like maybe I mean, clearly the thinking behind it is that it will drive people to the actual broadcast to be like, oh, if I miss that, what do I miss if I don't tune in now?
I had to cover the Grammys, which is not exactly the most exciting award show or show in the world. But if you look at the Grammys, the way they handled their social media accounts, instead of putting like full-on clips and videos of the performances, they would put memes or GIFs, I should say GIFs. And so it would move when you're scrolling through Twitter and you would see like Post Malone moving, but it's really like a 5-10 second like GIF. And then it makes you want to sort of like tune in to watch the actual performance. They would not put the actual performance on Twitter because they would want you to go to the website or tune in to the Grammys to watch it. Whereas with AEW, like clearly they're not going to put the entire match, but they do put the highlights. So, anyways, just whatever.
Well, I mean, my main understanding with like having to put this stuff in social media, YouTube, and whatnot, in our current state with quarantine and everything, with very minimal fan reaction or audience, that is almost the best way to see like what's working on TV right now for them, because you without, like I said, like without that the fan reaction, a lot of wrestling is being driven through fan reaction, and without the fans, they don't know what's working and what's not working. So they kind of turn to social media to see if something is worth continuing or following up, like story wise or spots or whatnot.
Which is fine, but that doesn't mean spoiling your own TV show while it's happening.
No.
I'm on the AEW All Elite Wrestling on TNT Twitter account because there are several Twitter accounts for AEW Dynamite. So last night there's 1 video, 2 videos, 3 videos, 4 videos, 5 videos, 6 videos, 7 videos of the match. 7 videos of the match. So I get what you're saying, Mariko, when you say it's a way for them to get people to tune in to the actual broadcast. I guess I don't know. I don't know. Like I watch live every single week, and I have been ever since it premiered way back in 2019. So I don't know what everyone else is doing, but I do know people who tell me all the time that, and I do this. To be fair, I do this with WWE. I don't watch Raw or SmackDown anymore. I just watch the highlights on Twitter. because I don't have time.
Yeah, well, that could be the case too for people watching AEW. Maybe they don't have the time to watch AEW, so they need to watch the highlights on Twitter to keep themselves, still in the loop.
I don't
I
know.
don't
I
know.
have to assume that their social media team is on the ball enough that there is clear reasoning behind doing it this way.
Hmm.
So
Well, listen,
it's maybe just data that we don't have.
yeah.
Aaron and I were talking about ratings earlier today or yesterday. I can't remember when it was.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, I kind of do this for a living. And at the radio station, they actually do not want me to put the audio clips while the show is on the air, which kind of makes sense because the show is on the air. You want them to listen to the radio station.
Yeah,
be on
I'm
radio
not
station.
disagreeing with you at all.
Mhm.
I do question why they do that the way they do it.
Because if they were to do it after, like, say, 10 p.m., when Dynamite finishes, if they start rolling out their footage and their photos and stuff on
Well,
Twitter,
that's how
Facebook,
they do it on YouTube. Is like the instant the show finishes, that's when the clips start going up on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, it could be something specific to Twitter and how that drives, audiences. I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess to be fair, not everyone sees the tweet right away. Like some people will see the tweet hours later. So yeah, it makes sense. Okay. Anyhow, they have a great team, and I love the team who does the actual visuals, like all the artwork and the banners and so on and so forth. I love the visuals.
Yes. There is something I just want to shout this out quickly because I thought it was so cute. But I think it was last week during Maki Ito's vocal performance, the actual closed caption said, "Maki Ito singing in background, mediocre at best."
Oh, that's awesome.
And on that note, I think we are going to call it a show. Thank you all so much for joining us as usual. I would like to thank Mr. Aaron Santos.
Always a pleasure.
And to take us out, Mr. Ricky D.
Do not forget that you can find all of our podcast episodes over at goombastomp.com. Check the wrestling section and or the podcast section, and you can follow us on Twitter at Talk AEW Podcast.
Bye-bye.